Right. I do want to kind of emphasize next weekend's program. We do have a few seats left for our winter symposium. It is a great program. Karen Bussolini is an amazing author and garden photographer. That's how I got to meet her. She was doing the photography for a book on silver plants, and she's really amazing. And then Rodney Eason, who's in Maine, is actually from North Carolina. Did he work for you, Tony? I knew it. Every time we bring somebody in who's an NC State grad, they work for Tony if they're going on to do big things. So Rodney was in charge of outdoor horticulture at Longwood Gardens, and then was at Coastal Maine Botanic Garden, and now he's at Landing Garden Preserve. So we're going to get the perspective of winter gardening from a displaced southerner up there. And then Lisa Bartlett is working at Smith Gilbert Gardens, and hold on to your seat. She is high energy, very high energy. So it should be a lot of fun having those three down. I also want to mention one that's well after all these that Chris brought up. We are doing the J.C. Ralston Arboretum and Juniper Level Botanic Garden are having their the first annual Southeastern Plant Symposium, June 7th and 8th. Registration isn't quite up yet, but it will be soon. This is going to be a 2-day just deep dive into plants. It is going to be for all the plant nerds, plantaholics. This is going to be a lot of fun. So be on the lookout for that. It's going to be a big one. We expect a big crowd for that. So we're going to be doing it off-site from here. We're going to be doing it at NBC Suites in the Triangle. But keep that those dates open.
15 or so speakers, Mark, for that one?
Yeah, I think we've got about 15 speakers for it. It's going to be big, more. And it's going to be your chance to get a hold of some really cool plants at the silent auction. This is going to be bringing in the best of the best and telling them to bring in the best of their best in terms of plants. So it's going to be exciting. All right. Usually Chris hands me a bio for our speakers. I guess he knows that I know everything important about our speaker tonight, and that is that one of his degrees is from Virginia Tech.
Yes.
So that's, we know he's going to be a good speaker. No, Brian came back here to state a little bit after I started, I believe. We were sort of pretty close together. And, people always give me a hard time about traveling all the time. And if you follow Brian on Facebook, he goes everywhere. And he outdid himself while he was taking a sabbatical, and I think went everywhere, 4 corners of the world. So he's going to be talking about that. Brian is a fantastic researcher. He does work with substrates in potting mixes and doing some real cutting edge stuff, looking at new materials that's a little bit more long-term sustainable than some of what we're currently doing. Also, one of the top professors in the department. He's one that the students all really like. He's one of the few professors that really manages to get students out here to these lectures. He bribes them. That's okay. I got 2 college-age kids. So I don't get them to do anything. He's bribed. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Brian Jackson.
Thanks, Mark. Good evening, everyone. If this gets too loud, I may take it off because I tend to.
Tim will turn it down.
I tend to speak very loudly, as some students could probably attest.
I could hear you.
Okay, as long as Bobby can hear me, I may take this off, okay? So, first thing, I trimmed this talk down to 152 slides, okay? And I got thinking, damn, that's a lot. And then I thought, Tony's going to be here, and I know Tony has at least 250 or 300 in his slides, all right? So you're used to fast pace, okay? So, this has been, in a decade of being a professor, a decade of being in college, this has been one of the more difficult talks to put together. Simply because when one chooses, or one has the obstacle or the challenge of trying to summarize for a vast audience of different backgrounds what it was I gleaned and gained from a sabbatical leave, it's almost impossible, okay? So with that being said, first thing I can tell you, this is not a plant talk, okay? And some of you are like, oh, you're making way for the X's, okay? I am, as Mark alluded to, I am a soil. I'm a substrate. I'm a lot of different areas of production, and plants, of course, being a part of that. So I'm going to cover some of the highlights that I've looked at, that I experienced in gardens and plants. But I want to share with you my experience, okay? Now, my experience started when I came off of a tobacco farm at age 18 years old, all right, in Lumberton. Most of you know where that is. And I arrived at NC State University having never been on a train, never been on a plane. I'd been to Disney World, I'd been to Pennsylvania to my grandfather's home, and I'd been to Dollywood. 18 years old, and that's it. And I thought this is pretty broad, okay? Now, you fast forward, and I think I try to share my experience with my students, many of whom are here tonight. I gave them an exam yesterday and today, so this is their way of making up for not hearing me talk, all right? So that being said, I love sharing, okay? So that's what I want to do with you tonight. Hopefully about some things that you have never heard of before, not just a new cultivar of this or something new interesting in that, okay? So, let me back up, all right? The journey is on, all right? This is one of the best, coolest signs I have ever seen, and this is in the Copenhagen airport, okay? So if or when you're in Copenhagen airport, all right, this sign must be photographed because it truly is the story of my journey. All right, so what am I going to talk about? All right, first, why a sabbatic? All right, why a sabbatical? I'm talking about that. I'm going to introduce you and hopefully teach you a little bit about soilless culture and substrates. All right, we're going to talk about substrates a bit. We're going to talk about this symposium. One of the main objectives of my sabbatic was to convene an international symposium. I'm going to share a bit with you about that, what that is. All right, highlighting a few of the gardens, okay, a few of the gardens that I experienced, some that I thought maybe you have not been to, or at least the vast majority have not been to. I'm going to spend some time talking about trends and why I think that I've put myself in a situation to maybe see some of the trends that are shaping and forging this industry that we all love. All right, some interesting museums, some side trips and journeys that I never thought I'd have a chance to do, some overall takeaways, and then kind of my crystal balls looking into the tea leaves about the future, okay? So, what is a sabbatic? All right, one of the many great things about being in academia is that this institution still allows its faculty to take a study leave, okay? In that study leave, it is the objective that we, as faculty, go out into the workplace, go out into the world, and see truly what's going on, and learn from that, and bring it back where? To our students, to our classrooms, to our research programs, okay? Not just looking on Google and thinking we understand where trends in the future is, because that's only a part of it. So get out and actually see it. So by sabbatic, if you ever spent much time, whether you went to church or not, that doesn't matter as far as understanding the Sabbath. You know about the Sabbath, on the seventh day we rest. Well, as it relates to definition, after 7 years of service, you rest, you refresh your mind. Okay, so that's technically where sabbatic comes from. Now today it's quite similar to what young high school students or even college graduates consider a gap year, okay? And a gap year is becoming more and more common, all right, again, both with high school students and college students. And I love this. Students who take gap years typically undergo a growth and maturity and are better prepared to benefit from higher education or decide the form of education they wish to pursue. Okay? Now I didn't. I came straight off the tobacco field, went straight to college, and went straight into academia after that. All right? But I do think this is a tremendous opportunity for a lot of students who can't afford, either financially or time-wise, to do that. Okay? So, here it is. I waited and I waited and I waited, and I decided to take my sabbatical leave only 6 months. All right? You have the option of doing a year, but I couldn't afford a year, so 6 months. And it started on June 1st of 2017. Okay? And it went through the end of November of that year. All right? Now, I waited, and sure enough, this was like, imagine this. You ever think, yeah, you know how excited you get when it's Friday afternoon? You know how excited you get when it's Christmas and you got a week coming off? Imagine how excited you are when you realize it's 5 o'clock and I've got 6 months away from this place. All right? I was levitating, absolutely levitating. All right, so, in that, what do I want to do? Okay? Well, I took this photo just a couple of weeks ago in the Munich airport, and it's hot. And I got there way too early, and I'm the only one in the airport. And I'm looking at all these boards, all right. And the world is a large place, okay? And I knew that on my sabbatic I had the option to go to a school or a company or a country and stay for 6 months and learn, all right? Or I could do as much as I could and try to be a sponge for 6 months and expose myself to things that scared me or that interest me or that I was just curious about. So I chose that approach. So what happened, all right? Here we go. It's number of states, 25, 21 countries, 48 flights, about 52,000 miles, 13 presentations, I guess this could now be 14, 11 different companies, all right, 33 growers of various things from cannabis to nursery to greenhouse, all right, university visits both in Europe and South America and in the United States, about 42 public gardens, all right, I can't do but a couple tonight, so maybe another lecture later, and the best count I have about 10,600 new photographs, okay? Now, people ask why I talk fast and why I have 152 slides. Well, how do you not have 152 slides when you're going to cover all this? Okay, so we're going to go through some of this, okay? All right. The dean of our college, many of whom of you know, all right, Rich Linton, in our department about a year ago, for the first time as an administrator, I heard him say, the mission, aren't you glad you're not outside? Wow. Okay, the mission of us in the College of Agriculture and the land-grant institution is teaching, research, you know the third one, extension, and he said without blinking, and the fourth is international relations. He added that international relations to the 3 primary tiered structure of what we should do in academia, all right? And that was like, yes, there's my cue, all right? That gave me permission to do this. Partnerships, networking, collaborations, and engagement. I love people, all right? I love people more than I love horticulture, and Mark, I love people more than I do substrates. And those of you in this room really know that's important to me, okay? So this is why I really enjoy this, all right? So I'll share with you some of these things. All right, a little lesson about substrates. This is me on my soapbox as a researcher for a minute. All right, you've seen this, and some of you may have already heard this analogy. You've seen this atlas statue, yes? All right, well think about this. And granted, I love this industry, and I love new plants, all right, but there's horticulture, ladies and gentlemen. Guess what atlas is? There are the substrates. It all starts in the soil. And you guys, or at least some of you may have been here, the Arboretum hosted a wonderful lecture on urban soil development by Bill Fontenot a couple of weeks ago, but I'm referring to substrates. Soil is culture. We'll talk about that just a bit. Right? There's substrates at the bottom. All right? So, I hear a lot about the sustainability of various aspects of our industry. All right? And peat moss is no foreign concept to any of you who've ever dealt with gardening or horticulture or grown any plants, okay? But there are a lot of misconceptions about its sustainability or its environmental stewardship relative to its future, okay? And this is one of the areas that horticulture is evolving immensely to keep up with how to properly mine peat for our advantage, but also to use other materials, okay? So, I visited a lot of substrate manufacturers in Europe. And let me tell you something. I know that the nursery growers and greenhouse growers in this state, in this region, in this nation support us in academics. But I'll tell you what, me and the substrate soil world, when I shared with them, all right, what I wanted to do, they opened their arms wide up, all right? And that's why I was able to do so much, is when I come to all these companies and they just say, yes, come, because how many people come knocking on the door and say, let's talk about bark? Well, not a whole lot. So I visited a lot of substrate companies. And this, in case, I doubt you've ever seen a peat bog. Okay? Now, all of our peat comes from Canada. Most of our peat comes from Canada, right? But these are both this is in Latvia and Lithuania. Okay? So to give you an idea, there I am at the time where the blue dot is, and you see an idea of the scale of these peat bogs. Okay? They have been harvesting peat for decades. All right? Now, I'll tell you about an interesting place I visited, and it gave the history of peat and how it matters to mankind a bit later. But this is all horticultural aspect, all right? So one of the things I wanted to learn is why the Europeans get such a bad rap and why peat is known to be destructively harvesting of the natural bogs in Canada. And this is why. They come in and they do what's called block cutting, and they'll block cut. And I've studied this my whole life, at least in school, but never seen it, okay? So I got pretty darn giddy when I finally got to see it in person. They just cut huge blocks. Then they throw these blocks out and they dry for a year, all right? And then they come in and they harvest these bricks, and then they fluff them up and they process them into the growing media that grow all of our plants, all right, at least predominantly. This is all European standards for how they do it, okay? Some of these peat bogs, as you can imagine from that map, are so big they build railroad tracks through them to pull it out. Let's see if this works to give you an idea of size of peat moss, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, this is not going extinct. It's not on the brink of being depleted of the world's resources. There's a lot of peat, all right? About 30% of Canada, all of Canada is peat moss, okay? About half of Europe, about half of Russia. Last time I checked, that's a lot of land mass, okay? Number one, there is a lot of peat. It is not going extinct, okay? But the way it's being harvested does need to be improved. That block cut nature is truly destroying those natural bogs, okay? So that's one thing. In Canada, this is kind of our back door, all right? In Canada, it's very different. They open up these peat bogs, and I'll show you a virgin peat bog in a second. They cut these ditches through it, they drain it, and they have these cool vacuums, all right? I've been wanting to drive one of these for years. They will not let me do it, all right? These super cool vacuums, and they only suck up about 2 centimeters, about an inch, every time they pass through the field, okay? Now, lesson about Canadian peat moss, all right? It did start looking like this, all right? But a third of Canada is peat moss. Guess how much of all the peat in Canada has been opened up, meaning this turned into, there's the natural peat. How much percentage of all the Canadian peat bogs has been removed for harvesting for horticulture? 0.05%. All right, so lesson, fact, all right, there is no such thing as alternatives. Fact, is peat going extinct? No, all right. Are peat producers doing a lot globally to improve the ecological management of these natural resources? Absolutely, and here's why. Look at the native peat. This is beautiful. These are beautiful plants. This may be the most beautiful plants I show you as far as color. This is natural sphagnum peat moss on a bog. You recognize these. All right, blueberries growing naturally and natively all over peat bogs, acid soil. All right, the little pitcher plant. We have these native in the eastern part of North Carolina. Tony grows some. Here's cranberries. All right, Cladonia stellaris. All right, this is what feeds the reindeer in the northern tundra during the wintertime. Okay, take your eye right here. Pitcher plant. What happens if we were to go into the wild and dig one of these up without a permit? You get arrested, but not in Canada. I pulled one of these up and just had a fun time doing it. Why? They were going to do it anyway, all right? So I wasn't just trying to be mean about it, but there it is, all right? So, bottom line, bog restoration. After a company comes in, harvest peat, which we use every single day, then they'll come in and reseed it, resow it, and actually reestablish these wetlands, okay? Now, to present all sides of all stories, because we should not cherry pick information to serve our agendas, the issue is this. Someone says peat moss is not sustainable, it's not renewable, all right? No, it's not in our lifetime. Because when peat grows, it grows very slowly. So it may take it hundreds or thousands of years to amass that depth back again. But once it is established like this, the creatures return, the ecosystem returns, it's just not as deep, okay? So again, that's cherry picking information relative to sustainability, all right? Now, one thing I also learned in the peat bogs in the Baltic states, Lithuania, Estonia, Latvia, Finland, is that these areas are very close to an area we aren't that open friendly with right now. All right? Anybody know where Klaipeda is? Klaipeda? It's the capital of the landlocked portion of Russia that's in Europe. All right? What about just east of Lithuania or east of Belarus? You have Russia, all right? And I visited these areas in Eastern Europe, and they are phenomenal people. But they still have very strong ties, politically speaking, that oftentimes is perceived as being very different or abrasive, all right? I learned something about history when I was in one of these peat bogs, and here I see in one of the factories Lenin, all right? And they still had this 6-foot photo of Lenin, who, of course, came in as kind of the leader of the soon-to-be Communist Party right after World War II and kind of at the beginning of the USSR. That still runs deep, all right? A lot of the Russians come over into the Baltic states for immigration purposes, for labor, for livelihood, similar to our southern border coming up, all right? So immigration is an issue all across the border. I learned that. All right, moving away from peat, and this is the last thing about substrate, and then we get on to gardens and some other stuff. All right? I've spent about 15 years with this idea of grinding and processing and using wood, trees, our actual loblolly pine trees to make a substrate. Okay? And in doing so, I get invited around the world, and a lot of invitations are coming in to come talk about this idea of manufacturing wood fiber to grow plants. Well, Brian, you can't do that. You can't grow plants in fresh wood. It ties up nitrogen. Your plants turn yellow and die. It actually doesn't. All right? Those of you who only garden in the landscape, yes. Those of us in containers that can actually add more fertilizer and do things differently, it actually works. Well, why would you want to grow something in wood if it's going to tie up nitrogen? You have to cut down trees. Why do you do anything? It costs less. Okay? This is kind of revolutionary in the sense that I'm so happy to have been a part of this. And this was flying into Riga, Latvia. All right? And I was flying in to give a talk about wood fiber, and I realized I'm in the capital forest of the world in Eastern Europe and Northern Russia. All right? Here's all these trees. Okay? So this is a little bit about what I do, characterizing wood fiber. All right? Wood fiber that has been processed from various trees in different forms and shapes to do different things. Okay? Now, I love history. And as a substrate scientist, as a scientist in general, we have to understand where we've been before we know where we're going. All right? And you can pick up a book and you can learn all about the history of Leyland cypress. Okay? Or the history of container production horticulture. All right? But one thing no one has ever done is to look at the history of this particular aspect of research, and that's wood fiber, right? Well, who would want to? Well, there's one person, that's me. All right, so I tracked down, all right, a guy, actually the son of a guy. This is Pascal, all right, and my French. Does anybody here speak French? Can you help me with his last name? Otherwise, it's going to be Bess. All right? All right, Bess. All right, Alain Bess, all right, he was the first person who actually patented the idea of using wood fiber in the late 1970s, early 1980s. Same time I was born, all right? We're the same age. It's not coincidence that I've spent my life working on wood fiber, right? So he invents this stuff called wood fiber, all right? Patented the process. As you know, patents expire, and now all those patents have expired. And I tracked down, I had to go, and I spent 4 atrocious days in Bordeaux, France in October, and this was just wonderful. And this is Pascal, the son of Alain Peles, and he had a wonderful time sharing with me the history behind this, okay? Now, since then, I've been in a lot of wood fiber processing plants, all right? I can talk about this for hours, but I'll stop right there. A lot of wood stuff. Scott's Miracle Grows using wood fiber in their retail products, all right? I'm going to share with you a few other examples of local nurseries and greenhouses that are making the switch. One of the reasons is this, all right? Here are wood chips that we engineered to be blockular, without splinters, without fibers. What is this stuff?
Perlite.
Perlite, all right? What the majority of citizens, consumers think perlite is? Fertilizer. You don't believe me? I have a story for you. All right, one of my favorite places to visit, New York City. All right, it's been several years since I was there. About 8 years ago, there for New Year's Eve, Times Square, staying with a friend of mine in Hell's Kitchen, 4 blocks from Times Square. I'm walking down the street, and what do I see? I see this gentleman out on his stoop with a bucket, all right, and a big cup, scoosh, 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 and I'm walking up the street thinking, oh, hell, I know what he's doing, but I'm going to ask anyway. Sir, what are you doing? Well, young man, I'm fertilizing my plants. And then you've got a choice to make, all right? As someone who knows a little bit more than he does, do you say something and try to educate? And I'm like, oh no, I'm on vacation. Good for you, sir, and I kept right on along. People think this is fertilizer. It's not, of course, okay? We put this in peat moss to give us aeration so our plants grow better, porosity, drainage, all of those good things, okay? Now, fast forward. You ever heard of this place? Yeah. Hunters, yeah, of course you have, all right? Not only is it in our back door, all right, at least in North Carolina, Huntersville, just north of Charlotte, the largest greenhouse on this continent, all right, pushing 170 acres in one house. All right? Another non-alternative fact. You walk in the front door, you don't see the end of the poinsettias. The earth tilts before you do. Okay? This is a massive operation. Guess what? 2 years ago, they stopped using perlite. Stopped. How much did they use? This is public information, by the way. I don't share anybody's private stuff. 185 transfer trucks of perlite a year. Guess how much money they saved? $2 million by switching to a wood product. $2 million. All right, Rockwell Farms right down the road did the same thing, and the greenhouses are dropping like flies. 49 of the top 100 growers in this continent have now switched to a wood product instead of perlite. Okay? Now, the perlite industry is not very happy with me and others doing research right now, but this stuff is saving money, all right? Tony, how hard is it as a production nurseryman to save a lot of money just by making one small switch? Pretty damn hard, all right? Thanks for plugging me right there, all right? So, all right, there's a little bit about why we're doing this. As a result, all right, one of the things I learned on my sabbatic leave is this, and this is not a knock on academia, but it's part of the game we have to play. In academia, we're expected to bring in money. I started where it matters most. We're expected to graduate and educate graduate students. We're expected to publish refereed science journals, and we're expected to teach our courses very well, at least to the best of our ability, okay? But the idea of publishing science referee journals is valid, is sound, and I love it. But it takes a lot of time. And one of the things I learned is that as someone still trying to build my program and share information about what I've learned, the fastest way is by trade articles. Greenhouse Production News, GPN, Greenhouse Grower, Nursery Grower, on and on and on. Cannabis Business Times. All of these trade magazines get information to the growers as fast as possible, and not that trickle-down thing of coming out of a science journal and finally getting its way to International Plant Propagator Meeting or some other national or regional society. So a lot of work coming straight out of the sabbatic was that. Okay, a bit about ISHS. Anybody know what ISHS is? We have an American Society of Horticultural Science. This is the International Society of Horticultural Science, right? Dr. George Wilson here in front knows all about ISHS. And he and I are almost brethren. We are brethren in the travel sense and appreciation for international exposure. This is the mothership right there. That is the mothership of all horticulture, okay? And within this mothership of international horticulture, there are hundreds of working groups, all right, where all the individuals who specialize in something, papaya, all gather once every 2 years, and they have a little bonfire, and they talk about all the great things in papaya. All right, minus the bonfire. In my case, there's a working group on growing media, one on compost analysis, one on substrate characterization. All right, we gather every 2 years and talk about the latest and greatest in science. Okay, and we share. All right, so I hosted this meeting as part of one of my objectives for my sabbatic leave in Portland, Oregon. Why Portland? All right, why not Portland? The horticulture there is on a scale that's unbelievable for the Europeans, okay? And I primarily did it for that. But I organized this meeting, one of the absolute hardest things I've ever done in my life, okay? And I'll share that with you as well, all right? Being successful is not just doing what feels right, but sometimes doing what you know you need to improve on, all right? Personal weakness is exposed. I've never looked at a menu before and selected a breakfast item for 150 people and then have to make a decision. Oh my gosh. All right? All of those decisions, like, no, I don't understand it. So I struggled mightily. Right? University policies and guidelines, I'm going to leave that there in case someone admin's listening to this. It's not easy nonetheless. Finances and money management, it's easier to get money than it is to spend it sometimes. All right, with other things going on. But this is the group, a wonderful group of folks. Now, talk about challenges. Some things you can't plan for. All right, I planned this meeting, which if you look was August 20th through 25th of 2017. All right, I planned it well in advance of the public understanding, the public, what's the right word? The fact that on the 21st of August 2017, something was going to happen. Anybody, where are my history buffs? Anybody remember what happened on the August 21st of 2017? Lunar eclipse. Boom. And when is it supposed to start? 10 a.m., full coverage in Portland, Oregon. An hour and a half after I'm starting my meeting. Every hotel in Portland, Oregon and the surrounding 50-mile radius went up to $400 a night. Every tour bus locked up. I had to get my tour buses from Washington State for the tours that I led on this. It was an absolute nightmare. Okay, you can't plan for something like that. You just have to smile and. Other challenges, all right? This is not, in all seriousness, it's not a political jab in either direction. But let me tell you, as someone organizing an event, when something occurs politically and it trickles down and influences people trying to come to a meeting, it makes me upset, okay? And I had people from Iraq and from Iran and from Syria who could not come to this country because they were either afraid, literally afraid, or they could not get in. okay? And when I'm having to explain something that I am not in a situation to explain about why you can't come, then that's tough, all right? I just hate any individual citizen has to deal with those repercussions, all right? So this travel ban really influenced us and then any other meeting for that matter. But it is what it is, okay? And hopefully getting better. Right, other things beyond the symposium. I had a chance to give 13 presentations in a lot of different countries to a lot of different groups of people, from small grower groups in southern England, all right, and no one knows hospitality like the English. But after about 3 days, the monotony of that just drives me absolutely, and I love it. I love it. All right, a lot of wonderful times to engage. One of the greatest research institutions on this earth, in Brian's opinion. All right, in Holland, right outside of Holland in the Netherlands. It took me about 10 years to learn how to say this, and I may still get it wrong, but Wageningen. All right, Wageningen University in Holland is one of the premier agricultural science institutions on this earth. And I had a chance to spend a couple of days on this campus as they were doing something that they called a think tank. And they invited scientists in from around the world to talk about concepts and ideas and theories about what if, what if, what if. And that's fun sometimes when you step outside of that box. All right, a little bit about garden exploration. All right, Chambord. Anybody been to Chambord in southern France? All right, I see one hand. Okay. Now, a little bit about Chambord. This is one of many places, garden-wise, that I visited. It's one of many places in the Loire Valley. If you take a look, the Loire Valley has the most concentrated area of chateaus that'll just blow your mind. I don't care if you care anything about horticulture or not. It's one of those weak in the knees, like I need to schedule two weeks to go visit these places. Chambord is the largest of all the chateaus in that entire region. Okay? Now, let me show you a couple photos. How old is it? It just celebrated a birthday this year. 500 years old. Started construction in 1519. All right? And it took about 25 years to build this and went through a lot of renovations, of course, in that time. But I visited this chateau, and it is a stunning facility. Not fully furnished if you're interested in the interior side of this, but just a remarkable place. When you go to France, you have to see this. Now, another thing, look at this. Does that landscape look like it's 500 years old? No. Like many other grand estates, or even much younger estates, there's a certain point in time where a lot of renovation has to occur. Okay? I remember when Biltmore in 2003 cut all the trees down in front of the house, and they replanted all 52 of those yellow poplars. All right? 105 years had paid their toll on those trees. Okay? If you've been to Longwood recently, they did that $40–50 million renovation of the fountains. A lot of things takes time. So I met with a couple of individuals who took the time to share an entire day with me about the renovation of this garden. This is the head of horticulture at Chambord, this was an intern, and this was the architect. Okay? And what they were charged with is actually redoing the entire front grounds, all of the formal gardens. All right? The trees were compacted, they were dying, and instead of just replanting and replanting, they decided to invest the money needed, 20 million euros. All right, talk about a lot of money, 20 million euros, into doing it correctly, all right? So they actually installed from start to finish. If you're interested in this, you have to read French, but they gave me this entire book that kind of highlighted all of this stuff, and I just had to because their English was not great, but it was better than my French. But they had some wonderful stories. Look at this. Where did they start with the renovation? The soil. The soil. They took it down and replaced it with great garden soil. And then they put in structured soil for the trees with irrigation systems to allow them to withstand the compaction of millions of people trotting their feet on it. It was a wonderful testament of what they were willing to do. All right, another place off the beaten trail, all right, somewhere likely maybe not many people have been, all right, moving out of France further east into Romania, all right, and near Transylvania. Think about Transylvania, there's a popular castle that comes to mind. Well, this is not it, right, but this is Peles Castle. This, second to Biltmore, is the most well-established, well-kept, absolutely mind-popping. Tim, have you been? Anybody been here? All right. It is, I know Jerry has. Jerry was actually with me on this, John. All right. This is actually the royal palace of the Romanian royal family. Okay. And they spend some time here, but the gardens are absolutely exquisite. If you have a chance to go to Bucharest in Romania, take a couple-hour trip, go see Peles Castle. All right. We'll talk more about that later in just a bit. All right, more horticulture, more general interesting factoids. Again, not just plant by plant, but the Tule tree. All right? Any of you ever heard of this? In Mexico. All right? That Tim has on this one. All right, so a little bit about the Arbol Del Tule. I'm sorry, Jerry, if my Spanish is really on. This is Taxodium mucronatum. All right? Mucronatum, excuse me. Taxodium mucronatum. The Monte, I think it's, is it Monterey Cypress, something like that? All right? What is it known for? Its diameter, 42 meters in circumference. All right, think about this. It's the largest trunked tree. You got to be known for something, right? It may as well be how big your trunk is. 42 meters in circumference, 14 meters in width. All right, so this is what this beautiful, beautiful Taxodium mucronatum looks like. Right, it's right next to a little monastery, a little church here to the side. Beautiful, beautiful tree. And that, and my photography is not great, what 138 feet or 42 meters looks like. Okay, so having had a chance to spend some time in California to see the oldest trees in the world, the tallest trees in the world, the biggest trees in the world, and now you can have the biggest butt trees in the world. There's the Tule tree. All right, a few trends. All right, trends in horticulture. Right? I must start with two big events, and these fell outside of my sabbatical. Okay, and some of the stuff in the next few minutes are going to be outside of that 6-month sabbatic, but still kind of in the travels in the past couple of years. All right, the International Horticultural Congress. Now, if you remember that ISHS, the International Society for Horticultural Science, and all of its working groups that meet every 2 years, well, the big mothership, the Congress, where all of those members of the international societies come together, they meet every 4 years, okay? And this past summer, it was in Istanbul, all right? Previous to that, it was in Brisbane, Australia in 2014, and then in Lisbon in 2010. And I've had a chance to go to a couple of these, but this is about where 2,500 to 3,500 participants come in from around the world and spend a week sharing what's the latest and greatest, what are the needs and the opportunities in horticulture. All right. Now, before I forget, that just kind of triggered something in my mind about research. All right, and what we do in research and what's presented at these meetings. There are, and I've never learned more to further enhance this. All right, so I think this may be right. There are only 2 reasons why anyone does research on anything. 2 reasons: to solve a problem or create an opportunity. Okay? And a lot more time than often not, we spend money and time in solving a quick problem as opposed to investing money to be proactive in a new opportunity. Okay? And that is why going to these meetings, you understand the both of them. Okay? So, Istanbul is a marvelous, marvelous, marvelous city. Go. All right? And if you're worried, let me just set your mind at ease about the biggest question you have about traveling to Istanbul, Turkey. Yes, they have crepe myrtles. And lots of them. The Blue Mosque, Hagia Sophia, 1,000-year-old church. It is a wonderful, wonderful Muslim culture with 1,700 mosques and minarets. It's a beautiful, beautiful city. All right, I took my PhD student, Paul Bartley, with me. All right, and get to share something like that with him is also just an incredible experience. Okay, the other big event recently. All right, this is IPM. Started in 1982, the International Plant Fair. All right, and in German that's IPM. All right. And this is the grandest horticultural fair on earth. All right. This year, 1,500 exhibitors. The latest numbers they said was about 1,600. 45 nations and 54,000 people crossed through those doors. Okay. Now let me give you an idea of how big this is. It's in Essen, Germany. You fly into Dusseldorf. You drive 45 minutes north of that. You're getting close to the Belgian-Netherlands border, and there's Essen. All right. This is the trade show floor. All right. There are 8 rooms. Okay. All right, 1, 2, and 3 were all kind of production related, soils and fertility and new fertilizers and equipment. All right, and 4 and 5 were all like retail. Imagine walking into Logan's or Homewood or Fairview and seeing acres and acres of that. All right, it was the ultimate, what's latest and greatest in retail horticulture. All right, and then 6, 7, and 8 were all new plants. All right, new plants. Now I see you getting excited. All right, I saw he himself, the Michael Durr, walking through the aisles with his little tiny folding notepad. Okay, so a lot of people. Oh, how big is this? 100,000 square meters. Oh, that's right. Yeah, you don't do the metric stuff. Yeah, 23 acres of floor space in this trade exhibition. The 2 greatest days of my professional career in the last decade sitting right here. All right, anybody should go to this meeting if at all possible. It's not even a meeting, it's a trade show. right? You pay 20 euros, you walk in the door. All right, from that, these are just the substrate companies I visited. It's really badly put together, but I kind of put them all in. These are just the substrate. What's the trends? What's the latest and the greatest? All kind of stuff, all right? I met with these folks who did some interesting X-ray tomography work that I helped them do, my student helped them do, all right? Some wonderful colleagues for many years, supporting future substrate design. It's always good when you see work from your program shown internationally. Some other, I just cherry-picked some of the cool things I saw, all right? The world's first professional potato tower, right? There was an entire exhibition on the floor trying to develop new techniques, new tools to grow underutilized crops for container gardening, to get more people into growing plants, not just tomatoes or peppers or cucumbers, okay? So all kind of interesting stuff. All right, I tell you, succulents are like, wow. All right, the intro class I'm teaching, many of them are here tonight, 92 students. They're like 20 on their info sheet says, I want to learn more about succulents. All right, this is a niche market that's no longer niche, I think, but there were some really cool new succulents going on in Essen, Germany. All right, oh, roses. All right, so those of you who do the whole Valentine's thing saw the latest and greatest in colors. All right, now, if you already bought your rose and it's not that big, then you've missed the boat. All right, that's to scale. So look at that guy. All right, that's more than a mortgage. So, just a few summary hints of what I see. Right? This is just Brian talking. What do I see is new? Increased container production, okay? Meaning growing crops in containers. It's not just flowers anymore, ladies and gentlemen. It's not just trees. It's not just shrubs. It's herbs, it's greens, it's recreational plants, it's cannabis, it's fruit, it's small fruit, it's all kind of fruit. Citrus growers are thinking about growing oranges in containers, okay, that never ever before been, right? Never before been done. Increased use of growing media, of course. You need containers, you need growing media. That's good for our industry. Longevity of substrates in containers. Precision engineering is what I'm trying to do in my program. Peri-urban agriculture. All right, peri-urban, periphery, right on the outside of urban areas where greenhouses are being built to grow the greens and lettuce and herbs and other food crops for big cities. Water-wise production, soft roots, the caneberries, blackberry, raspberry, blueberry, strawberry, more and more in containers, not so in the ground. Reasons for that are many, all right? Talk about that some other time. The role of perlite, I already told you, they hate me, all right? And then cannabis. We'll talk about cannabis right now. The future, now look, this is a little play on words, but to get people either on one side or the other, not necessarily right now voice your opinion, but I'll tell you mine. The future of cannabis or the future is cannabis, all right? Now, global stance. Even people who oppose it for whatever reason are lightening up or softening to that some, okay? Now, North Carolina, a few years ago, delegalized industrial hemp, CBD oil cannabis. And for that reason, we at NC State not only had the opportunity, but actually were encouraged to apply for permits to grow this crop and begin researching. And I did that, all right? And what that did, starting last June when I was growing cannabis, that got me on the forefront in our program at NC State on the forefront before the mass overall legalization of industrial hemp, which occurred with the Farm Bill that just got signed this year. Okay, so NC State, Brian Whipker's doing a lot of folks are doing a tremendous amount with cannabis. All right, void of scientific data and any best management practices. It's just begging. It's an industry begging for information about how to grow plants. Opportunities for students. All right, I'm giving an invited talk at the International Plant Propagator meeting in Baton Rouge, Louisiana this fall. And what I decided to talk about, not substrates, not soils, but the gateway crop. And in my opinion, cannabis will be the gateway crop, okay? Now, I don't mean recreational. I'm not talking about people getting high. I'm not even talking about the medicinal implications, okay? I'm talking about the interest that students have and are coming in of all ages to get minors in horticulture, to get majors in horticulture, or to get graduate degrees in horticulture to learn about this crop. And if we, as an institution, or any institutions in academia, say, no, it's cannabis, you can't, then shame on you, all right? Get students and bring them in and educate them about horticulture, about all the aspects of horticulture, including cannabis, and that is better than any proactive program, in Brian's attention and opinion, than to just say, hey, come grow this, your own food at home, okay? Now, I'm not demeaning those other principles at all right? Please don't understand, or please don't take it that way. But this is an opportunity to get people's attention, okay? because you travel the world, and horticulture is farming, it's dirty work, it's low pay. Why do I want to do that? Okay, so this could be it, something to consider, just for discussion's sake. Okay, old meets new. All right, I spent 15 years of my life in tobacco. All right, this could be the next cash crop. All right, who knows? We shall see. All right, because of that, I've done some research and actually, again, trying to educate. Cannabis Business Times, a wonderful magazine. They'll send you 13 emails a day, so don't sign up for it unless you're really serious. Right? We wrote a couple of articles trying to educate. They say perlite's toxic, or peat, coconut materials are more sustainable than peat. And 3% bat guano, and 2% vermicompost, and 1% of this all makes us wonderful. No, it doesn't. All right, we're trying to educate. A bit about culture, right? I'm all over the place, I know, but a little bit more about culture. 37 years old before I ever visited a majority Muslim country. All right? And this was taken in the streets of Sarajevo and Bosnia and Herzegovina. And I remember growing up in the 80s and 90s. I remember Bosnia not that great of a state. Okay? Meaning the wars and Serbia and all the breakdown of Yugoslavia and all those countries as they're trying to find their place and their independence. But I fell in love with this culture. And here's where I learned, ladies and gentlemen, a little farm boy from Robinson County, that Muslim, you think Muslim, it's a culture, it's a people, and it's a religion. All three things, and they're not necessarily all the same thing. And I went into my very first mosque, and this beautiful, take your shoes off, this beautiful tapestries, carpets, right? There's the beautiful carpets, there's the ceiling, and talk about being as far away from home as possible. When I was in this mosque, that was me, okay? But walked outside of this mosque, and I'll just show you. Walked outside of this mosque with this whole new experience, and what do I see? Those of you in the room who have no idea why everyone's laughing, this is called mimosa. All right, this is mimosa, a weed tree, a very weedy tree. It grows on ditch banks all over North Carolina. All right, but it welcomed me when I walked outside of that. All right, a few museums and a few monuments off the cuff. Liberty Hyde Bailey, the father of American horticulture. Okay, and I've had a chance to go to Michigan State University where they have this wonderful statue and a monument in this beautiful garden area devoted to the father of American horticulture. Very well done, as it should be respected for that. All right, I also went to a peat museum. I told you I'd tell you a little bit more about peat. All right, in East Germany. All right, and before the company I was with took me here, they took me to this little tiny restaurant on the side of the road, and they fed me buckwheat pancakes. All right, now buckwheat pancakes fried in the thickest lard I had ever eaten, and there wasn't one of these, but two of these pancakes, the size of my head. All right, I almost made myself sick, but I loved every bit of it. Okay, so just a bit, really quickly. All right, peat. Well, what do we know about peat? Why do we care as a people? Well, if you take a look at this, unless you read German, just listen to me and believe what I'm telling you. 1788 is the first recorded history of the use of peat. Now, were they growing plants in containers in 1788 to need peat? No, it got cold in Germany, didn't it? Yeah. It still does. I was there and it was cold. All right. Why are they mining peat 300 years ago? Burning it. Absolutely, they're burning it. So in this, they showed the mechanization from hand cut to horses to the first mechanizations of how to extract that bog peat, those block cut peats out of this. And there's those same blocks like I showed you 30 minutes ago, right? Just different machinery to do this. They put these special hooves on shoes on horses so they wouldn't sink in the bogs. It's just really kind of cool, showing the history of this. They even learned how to make a peat toilet. You ever seen a John made out of peat? All right, they actually have one. Right now, no, I love this. All right, you have to put dry powdered peat. It's got to be very dry, and you stack it in the back here, and you can actually see the level of peat. You know, kind of like the fuel gauge on a gas tank. All right, and then you do your thing, and then you put a little handle, and a little bit of dry peat comes down and absorbs it and keeps the scent down. Will Hooker, if you know him, he would be all about that. All about that. I haven't thought about that till right now. I didn't tell him about this. But it was a wonderful, this is culture, history for hundreds of years, using this material for that. Random journeys, a few of this. Aha! Here's the place in Transylvania that is most known in Romania. Okay? And had a chance to go to Dracula's castle. I'm thinking it's going to be like this. All right? But it's not. All right? Dracula's castle is actually Bran Castle. And Bran Castle is this fortress which was built in 1377. Okay? You pay like 15, 20 bucks, do the equation, or do the equivalent in euros, and you go in and it's not well done. All right? It's cold, it's drafty, it's just, you can tell they're just milking people's money. All right? Now, Bram Stoker's Dracula, you've seen 1 or 15 of these movies. Bram Stoker never even went here. There's no connection to this whatsoever with the made-up fiction of Bram Stoker. But that's not stopping the owners of this from having these big displays showing all about Bram Stoker's Dracula and all the movies and all this stuff. It's a pretty cool place to say you've been. It's kind of like Leaning Tower of Pisa. Once you've seen it, 10 minutes, you're ready to go. All right, there it is. All right, the castles of Mad King Ludwig II. All right, if you get to southern Germany and Bavaria, number 1, drink beer. Number 2, drink more beer. Number 3, go to the Mad King's castles. Now, the Mad King King Ludwig I was a well-loved king of Germany. All right, but then I learned that his son, at the age of 19, all right, after his father and his uncle had died, became king. At 19 years old, all right, and he was king for 23 years, and all he was focused on was building castles. Building these massive castles, and one of which was this place, right, called Neuschwanstein. Right, Neuschwanstein Castle. Right, I first pronounced it Neuschwanstein, which means pig castle, but no, it's the Swan Castle, Neuschwanstein Castle, and this is, in the dead of winter, a phenomenal place to visit. Right, it has inspired many gardens, many architectures around the world, including the Cinderella Castle. All right, Walt Disney saw this, and he was inspired to do his own. Okay. Now, unfortunately for King Ludwig II, he was deemed at age 46, after 23 years on the throne, to be mentally unstable. All right, and so they found his body floating in a pond not long later. So he got dethroned. Monarchy in Germany then failed, and it's all down the hill. All right, Teotihuacan. All right, Machu Picchu. All right, on and on and on. The Galapagos Islands. You can spend a lifetime studying civilization and barely understand how diverse we are as a people. And you go through South America and all of the world with the history of the Aztecs, the Inca, the Maya, and if you aren't inspired, then I don't know what the hell inspires you. All right? And that's true from a horticultural standpoint, it's true from a cultural standpoint. Now talk about an expectation. I went to the Galapagos Islands expecting grandeur. All right? If any of you have been, you may see this. The first thing off the plane, getting to the hotel, a herd of cows on the road. All right? They are inundated in non-native species. Okay? Cattle, of course, being one. This gentleman was standing in the square, and he represented an individual, and he has a sign, and he picked up cigarette butts, and he's got all these totals on the beaches of the Galapagos Islands. All that tourists are dumping. Okay? So people who come here thinking to have an appreciation for what you think to be nature and wildlife and ecology are still dumping this. He had this wonderful sign. This is a one-man program with the only intention of keeping the islands clean and people and wildlife healthy. Right? They're inundated with invasive species, and they're spending their resources fighting those invasive species. All right? But this is one of the largest active volcanoes in the world. Right? High in the elevations. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. These things smell like death. Right? These are those lizards that go down into the sea and eat algae off the rocks. They smell horrible. Of course, the tortoises, right? Now, I've shown this photo before, and someone said, Brian, why did you get them humping? And the question is this: they never stopped humping. They never did. That was just, and they made noises that just. I did meet Darwin's grandson. I don't think he is, but he is the most strange man I've ever met in my life. He could be Darwin's grandson. I don't know, but there they do have a marvelous, marvelous research center to explore the diversity of genetics and culture on those islands and try to preserve that. The Charles Darwin Research Station is well worth going to the Galapagos Islands if you have the chance or when you have the chance. A few other quick things. Normandy, cemetery, and beaches, okay? You can't not incorporate history when you travel. And I've had a chance, intentionally and unintentionally, to go to some of the greatest places marked by World War II. Something that I'm appreciative of but don't know enough about relative to its history and impact. But you walk the cemetery of Normandy and everything comes to life. Right by yourself, I suggest doing that. All right, a couple other things. Come on. Mont Saint Michel, right? If you go to Normandy, you've got to go to Mont Saint Michel, this beautiful city. So small town built there. When the tide comes in, it cuts it off from all the mainland. The tide goes back out, and you can actually walk to Mont Saint Michel. It's a wonderful thing. Telford, Coalbrookdale, UK. Remember the comment I made about the British earlier, the English? Right? I have some wonderful friends who live there, great colleagues of mine. Neil Bragg is a great friend and colleague, and he lives in this wonderful place called Coalbrookdale. And that's the entire town, nestled in northern England, just south of Manchester, east of Liverpool. And I stayed with him for a week in September. And he said, Brian, we're going to go to church on Sunday morning. I'm like, oh, okay, sure. All right, well, I'll go to church with you. So we walked in, and he got to the door, and he said, no, I'm just kidding. We walked around the backside, and he took me up to the tower, and this is as British as it gets. He's a bell ringer. All right, so I watched him. These English chaps playing bells. There's Neil right here in the center. The sad thing is, I looked out the window and nobody was coming.
Oh.
So they didn't ring loud enough or high enough. They tried to teach me, it didn't work out very well. Okay, Chernobyl.
Oh, yeah.
Chris, we're at the cube. Okay, this we'll see. Chernobyl, of all places. All right, the Ukraine is a marvelous, marvelous country. Go to Ukraine. Kiev is a beautiful, beautiful city with loving, hosting people. Okay, now you have the chance to go to Chernobyl. Now, if you think back to the Chernobyl, April 26th of 1986, the same year that the Challenger exploded, in January of that year, Chernobyl exploded on April 26th. And when it exploded, it melted this nuclear reactor. And as I have already warned Chris, it's melted my slide as well. Take it down and bring it back up, and it should be fine. So now they've opened this back up for tourism. Here we go. And one of the things I wanted to see is the Red Forest. Okay? And in the Red Forest, this was deemed the Red Forest after the nuclear fallout when massive amounts of pine forests were killed because of the radiation. And if you've ever seen a dead pine tree, the foliage turns brown. It turns that reddish color. So hence the name, the Red Forest. All right? So we get on the bus. They give you you have to sign all this paperwork, first of all, saying that you're not going to sue them for anything that can happen. They give you a wristband that says Chernobyl. And the guide, she said kind of jokingly, they're kind of making this to be the super scary experience that you may never survive from. And if you need to make a last minute phone call to someone, do it now. If you need to say any last rites of passage, do it now. So do whatever you need to do now in case you don't get out of this. I said, all right, I'm going to buy a Fanta. All right, that was my last wishes. So there we go. Get to the border crossing, 30 kilometers outside of the nuclear reactor. Have no clue how close we're going to get. We go through a 2-page list of all the things you cannot do. You cannot sit. You cannot touch anything. You cannot do anything whatsoever. They give you these. We had these Geiger counters, all right, and they beep, 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 beep. And 3, all right, when they read 3 in the ambient air, it's fine, okay? Anything above 3 is a bit of a concern. You should not stay there very long. 2.64, no issues, right? All right, keep going. Come on. Now, as you remember maybe from Chernobyl, there are some horror movies about Chernobyl diaries, about these strange radiated, mutated creatures that eat people and do crazy stuff. There are still people who live in this area. They're not mutated, okay? There was just a report came out recently, Real Science, that the wildlife are actually thriving. All right, imagine that you take people out of the area and then wildlife thrive. Makes sense, all right? But these cities just absolutely were left. All right, 3 hours, the government evacuated this area after the meltdown in 1986, and now you get to see how nature reclaims these cities after decades of no one being there. And of course they stage it so it looks very horrific. You go into a kindergarten and then there are these dolls with their eyes popped out and all these clothes scattered on the floor, but it's still kind of cool, all right? So I'm still not sure how far we're going to go. Here we are, here's the power plant, all right, and keep going, and there it is. They built this dome to go over it to keep the radiation from leaking out, and they just installed, let's get right up to it, all right? Because the radiation's locked in the inside, all right? So this is Pripyat, which is the little town with 40,000 people lived who worked at the power plant. And you can see from this is the photo that she showed before on the right. This is what it looks like now. This is what it looked like at the boat dock before, and this is what it looks like now. Right? It's just life reclaiming what was there. This famous photo right here, all right, which I thought I was going to die. I still may die. I was walking around the corner of this, and there was a group of tourists who I didn't see, and I kind of stumbled, and I just nailed my shin right on the bottom of that Ferris wheel, and it was bleeding down the side, and I didn't want to tell anybody. Now I have radiation poisoning. And then I said, well, maybe the radiation's not that high on the Ferris wheel. 232. bathroom light on since I got home. All right. Walk out and they scan you for radiation. All right, you go through these things and making sure there's no radiation in your body, but nonetheless. Cultural ties, and I'm finishing up, I promise. I have stories, and some of my students here already this semester have heard me tell some stories about certain plants in my life growing up that meant a lot to me, from some way or shape or form. But I never knew the impact that a plant could have on an entire culture until late October, early November of 2017, and the opportunity to visit Mexico City and Oaxaca for Day of the Dead. All right, the Day of the Dead celebrations really got exploded when
Coco.
Yeah, Coco, but before that it was James Bond movie, all right? The helicopter going through that scene. If you haven't seen it, you can. But they sell marigolds, okay? Why marigolds? Marigolds, there's a lot of history as to why this city sells marigolds. They put them into these wonderful displays. They're basically, long story short, watch the cartoon Coco, okay? Because it explains the culture of these plants, which are very vibrantly colored, and you all know marigolds. They're also very pungently fragrant. And they feel that those vibrant colors and pungent scents can guide their ancestors out of the grave back to them, and they can actually interact and share experiences back with the dead again. So they'll go to the graveyards and they'll set up these wonderful tributes to their fallen family. But I never imagined a plant having such an impact on a culture, even today. And leave it up to us in horticulture to find a way of marketing it. All right? I stole this photograph from a former director's Facebook page without his acknowledgement, Bob Lyons. Okay? Now, I haven't told him this. Somebody can tell him that later. He can call me and be upset. But I'm giving him credit, so that's what matters. He posted this past year, 2018, and here it is, Dia de los Muertos, and they have marigolds that they're selling with these wonderful skull structures on it. So even horticulture is learning to market this here in the U.S. All right, expect the unexpected. This is while traveling, ladies and gentlemen. This is while traveling over those 6 months in Sabbatical and any other time. A lot of things happen. First trip in Ljubljana. Ljubljana, which is the capital of Slovenia. Wonderful, wonderful place. Slovenia is the home country of our First Lady, Melania Trump. She's in the east part. We were in the west part, in the capital. Arrived, no luggage. Okay? First 2 days on this 6-month journey, and there's no luggage. Get it back, and then there's water dripping out of the corner. Like, oh, great. All right? Anything can happen. All right? Other things. Manhunt for the tube bomber. All right? Right when I was going to London, this hit. Okay? So think about security. Think about things that happen. Sonic attacks sparked pullout of the U.S. Embassy in Havana, Cuba, all right, after Obama opened up the embassy again, then these sonic booms, and the administration currently pulled the embassy out, and they told nobody to come. Well, we were already there, all right, the sonic attacks occurred. All right, earthquake in Guatemala, all right, a 5.1. I don't think we felt it, all right, but nonetheless, it occurred. You never know what's going to happen. Turkey, United States pulls the Turkey visas. I'm supposed to go to Turkey for the International Congress, and then this happens, okay? You can't. My dad once told me, I was in grad school at Auburn University for my master's degree. I flew back to D.C. one weekend for one of my best friend in college's a party, his birthday party, in Georgetown, right outside of D.C. And there I am drinking $12 martinis. And you just feel the need of throwing your pinky out because you're paying $12 for this martini in Georgetown, okay? Fly back to Auburn the next day, and I go to a trailer park keg party drinking like Busch Light. All right? I tell my dad that story, and he says, Brian, that's what you call a rubber band man. You just have to stretch and go in any direction you need to go to survive. And that's true when things come at you that you can't avoid. All right? Food and beverage. All right, here we go. Some of the fun stuff. Food, I love eating. Okay? And this is a sampling. Take photographs, guys, when you're traveling, if you don't already. Not just for Facebook, but you never know when you can share it with somebody. The culture that's on this slide is absolutely incredible. And on this one, it's just over and over. It's just wonderful. All right. Now, of all these great things, this was a caribou hamburger. This was one of the best. I can go on and on and on. Now, how bad does food get? In Peru, if you like guinea pigs, they call it cuy. All right. You buy the whole thing and you rip it out, and it's disgusting. Until you have a Portugal air flight back from Germany, Jim Clark, and you get this. My friend Jim was with me for a bit in Germany, and we came back, and that is what they served us. I'd rather have a cooey on a stick than that. All right? Beer. Oh my goodness. Beer around the world. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. It's great guides. Take a lot of free tours, like a lot of wonderful free tours in all the big cities. All right. Some great guides to learn a lot about culture. I'll wrap up in just a second talking about relative to what you learn from guides. All right, some were better than others, as you can tell from this guy. He passed out on the trip. He was done. All right, literary adventures. All right, side notes. Had nothing to do with horticulture, but everything to do with life. Okay, Stephen King. You know Stephen King, whether you've read his books or not. There's movies all over the place. I loved him as a kid, and I learned that when I was in New England, all right, that his house is right there. There's the address, 47 West Broadway, Bangor, Maine. Okay, boom, right into the GPS. Here we go, and there's his home in Bangor, Maine. It's wonderful. All right. Now, I also saw one of Stephen King's greatest movies, which is coming back to theaters this year, Pet Sematary. All right, where you bury the dead pets and they come back alive. Well, here's a real-life pet cemetery in Lisbon. All right, you have a chance to see it, the real thing. All right, Mark Twain. Who doesn't know Mark Twain? Huckleberry Finn, wonderful. Hartford, Connecticut. Go view his home. Beautiful, beautiful home and a history of Mark Twain, American literary. Thomas Mann, German writer. Right, 1929, a Nobel Peace Prize in literature. All right, he had a lot of interactions with the Nazi Germany, and a home in Lithuania that he fled due to the war. This man, okay, I must say that Thomas Wolfe probably is the North Carolina's most famous author, okay? Now, this is a photograph of Thomas Wolfe in Berlin, okay? And I must say that a colleague of mine, dear friend Jim Clark, is a retired professor here at NC State in English, spent much of his career studying and writing about Thomas Wolfe, all right? And I've alluded to Jim before. He came to Germany, and he and I went on a quest, all right? Jim wanted to try to find the location of this photograph in Thomas Wolfe. And we went on an expedition, and I think we got pretty darn close. And this is a moment I'll never forget. This is wonderful. All right, Ernest Hemingway, last one, Ernest Hemingway. Oh my goodness, talk about the works of Ernest Hemingway. This was in Havana, Cuba, all right, the Florida bar. He stayed there a lot, he drank there a lot. You can have your photo taken next to him. A lot of works with that. If you have a chance to go to Havana, Cuba, go. All right, talk about a proud people. A proud people. And they are changing now. They are changing. All right, but a bit about that. The U.S. Capitol building is the model for their own Capitol building. But beautiful squares, wonderful food. All right, just the coastline. It's a wonderful place. And of course, you can't go to Cuba without the cars. Lots and lots, come on, lots and lots of these beautiful old cars. Some of you may remember those. Others of us only through photographs. That's okay. Here we go. Visited some own farms, facilities where they're actually opening up to like peri-urban agriculture. People coming in to visit these farms. Great, great experiences using old-timey, as my granddad used to say, agriculture, still using the oxen to pull things. It's a great thing. So in summary, deliverables, collaborations, initiatives, grants, and funding. As a researcher, that's very important. Right? Co-advising new students, publications, research direction, what's new, what's now, what do I need to be paying attention to? Teaching inspiration, all right? My students hopefully can benefit from some of that. Networking, global perspective, self-confidence. Oh my goodness, this is welcome home sign, not for me, but I think it was for me in the Tally Student Center when I got back to NC State. All right, it's all about perspective, ladies and gentlemen. So the last slide I want to share with you is, or last couple slides is about perspective, all right? And I continue to evolve the way I think about a lot of things. And I think we all have to do that as professionals and as citizens of this earth. All right? There's a wonderful, I think to be a wonderful parable. All right? And this story, this fable, all right, says, all right, it describes a group of men. All right? The story's all over the place, but a group of men in India, and they're all blind. Okay? And these 6 or 8 men all are introduced to the elephant by touch. Okay? Each of the 8 men touch a different part of the elephant. The ear, the tusk, the foot, the wrinkles, the nose, all of this, okay? And then after their one touch of the elephant, then they meet, and then they describe what they saw. What does the elephant look like to you? And they talked about what they felt, what they envisioned. And then they started saying, no, that's not what it was. I felt this. You're wrong. No, no, no. And they got into this war. Not war, literally, but a discussion about, you're wrong. Perspective is different, okay? And then this came. Humans have the tendency to claim absolute truth based on their limited subjective experience as they ignore other people's limited subjective experiences, which may be equally true. Okay? Now, I mentioned earlier before the phrase cherry picking. All right? We can go through life and visit a garden or a country or have a meal with a couple or a new friend, and you can cherry pick certain things from that experience and then go share with others what you felt. Or you could think the completely different opposite if you were someone else's around. Okay? So when you go somewhere and visiting, listening to a cabbie for 15 minutes is not a good way to represent the culture or the people of that nation. All right? That's like someone coming to the United States and going to New York City and saying, hey, I know what the United States is like. All right? Keep your mind open and try to learn as much as you can and be respectful of other people's thoughts. Traveling is not easy. Separation from family, the normals, there's no normal. All right, just like the little girl asking her mom, what's normal, honey? Well, it's just a setting on a dryer. Nothing's normal. All right, sleep and food patterns, loss of loved ones. I lost 2 dear friends of mine. All right, tragically when I was gone, you have to deal with that some way while away. Delays and cancellations, absent for current events, PTSD. All right, post-travel, and I'm not in any way belittling the true PTSD, but post-travel stress disorder is real. You can't go around the world and doing something new and come back and just fall right back in and think the same way anymore. You really just can't, all right? This is a cabbie I had not long ago. Talk about impact. 15-minute wonderful cab ride. You talk to this person. Oh my goodness, it's great. And then you end, he dropped me off at the airport, and here's what he said to me. Have a good life. And he shut the door and spun away. Those connections, that's hard. Have a good life. Bye. All right? Have a good life. Wow. Travel is not reward for working, it's education for living. And if there's a reason to travel for academic or for personal, professional reasons, it's got to be done. So travel well. Maybe the best time was in Havana, Cuba, all right, with John and with Jerry. Cuban cigars and rum is a great way to go. And to quote Mark Twain, I have sampled this life. And ladies and gentlemen, I hope you sample your lives to the best that you can, because we only get one and there's no rehearsal. All right. Thank you for your attention and for allowing me to go over. No one left, but thank you very much.
We've got time for maybe 1 or 2 questions, but we won't go very long. Do we have any?
Were you gone for the entire 6 months?
Probably all but 4 weeks of that. Something like that.
Anybody else?
The church in Berlin that you went to find to recreate the Thomas More photo, looked like it had the steeple missing. Is that World War II damage?
Yep, World War II damage.
All right, we're going to leave it at that. Brian will probably be here for a few minutes, can answer some questions if you need. If you want to see the marine iguanas that stink, we're going to Ecuador next January with the Arboretum, going to the Galapagos in Ecuador. So you can sign up for that, get you some cooling. But yeah, no, I've never seen the marine iguanas. I've had guinea pig in Ecuador.